Hi, this is Lori from CustomizedWalls.com and one of the moderators for the interior design community. We have a very special guest because he's not just a total expert on all things Google Plus and content management, but he's also one of my BFFs. Hi, Stefan. Introduce yourself.
Hi, Lori. Hello, interior design community. Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, Lori's right. We chatted up a lot. She's
We
great,
do.
though. Isn't she fantastic? So you guys have one of the best role models, I think, as far as building a community here for your industry, and you guys are really lucky to have her. And I'm excited to be here with you today. So yeah, a quick little bite about me. I have been in business for myself for going almost on 15 years. I own a we'll call it a web consultancy. I build, design, manage, market websites for small businesses and mostly nonprofits and small businesses, that kind of clientele. But of late, largely because of what I brought, what I've learned on Google Plus, I've started to really focus more on the strategic side of content marketing and just basically online visibility, online strategy and things like that. Mostly because everything has to work together now. And where once you had an SEO guy, and then you had your pay-per-click guy, and your Facebook people, your social media people, whatever, and then you had your bloggers, and you had your web host. Not saying that they all have to be one person anymore today, but they do all need to talk to each other. And they're all those are all in groups and verticals or whatever that don't like to talk to each other because their way is right, and it's the only way to do things. But you know what? You really do need today to be competitive in the online space, and so that people can find you, and that's really the whole point of this. So people can find you, and the right people can find you. The goal is to find ways where your website, your email marketing, your landing pages, your advertising, all of your branding, your social media, all of that works together, and your search marketing all works together in harmony. And that's really where I've taken. I really kind of just jumped on that, and I'm helping clients build plans and strategies so that all the stuff they're doing to kind of wrangle this beast actually has some business purpose, and so that you're saving time, you're saving money, and finding better clients and more targeted visitors to your website. That's what I do.
I think that that's really something that I'm hearing from designers quite a bit, and not just designers, but a lot of the businesses in the home decor space, that there are all these little pieces. You hire this guy for this, and this guy for that, and this guy for this, and then by the time you get through all of these different guys, the first thing you did with the first guy is totally outdated, or it doesn't work with the second guy's thing, or and then you're repaying and repaying and repaying, and it gets incredibly overwhelming for a small business owner. This is a financial commitment. This is not something that they are playing with. This is their livelihood. So being able to have a set strategy, have it all be in a cohesive package is incredibly valuable, I think.
Yeah,
Is that what you're finding?
Yeah, and remember too, your website, at least this is how I've always felt, your website is an extension of your company. It's an employee. If you treat it as an employee, you don't have to, but you should treat it as an employee because it wears a lot of different hats, and the technology is there to wear hats for customer service, for IT, for point of sale, for marketing and PR. I mean, there's a lot of things that your website can do, and it does it for you 24/7. And there's no health care, and there's no 401k. So and quite on. And so and the other problem is people have gotten in their mindset like, oh, my website is my website, I can host it for not for free but for peanuts, and my social media, well, social media is free because it doesn't cost me anything to have an account. Well, okay, that's all fine and dandy. Yeah, maybe there's no cost to be on the platform, but the time you're spending is worth it. Is worth something, right? You are not a social media manager by trade. You're not a website, a web dev. You're not a professional marketer who knows how to do email code or anything like that. You're a business person, and you do fill in that blank better than web people, and better than social media people, and better than email marketers. So why not build a team around you of people who know how to do these things and can work together to, who bring all of the best practices and and understand your business? Because I guess at the end of this, that's the whole thing. All, again, with your website and your whole web presence is an extension of your business. Whatever that does for you, your maps listing, your social media profiles, your email list, your website, everything like that, all of these things are supposed to be doing something to help your business. Otherwise, it's not a good investment. You either have to change what you're doing or you just bag it, And it makes sense to approach. That's kind of where I've been coming from, more heavily recently, but it's always been sort of in my blood when I work with clients. It's, let's approach this from a business perspective. So your website, we're just not going to design a corporate brochure. Let's design something that's actually going to be functional and is going to help your business in some way. Because then you can also measure it. You can also say, oh, okay, this is what I was expecting, and it didn't happen. So I either have to change something or change my expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you've had some amazing success on content management strategies for small businesses here on Google Plus and through the other social media platforms, because you kind of have people working Google Plus through those other platforms. Number one, how did you get into that? And then number two, what are the tips and tricks that to help you develop something like that? And wait a minute, first, we should probably say, what is the content strategy? Because for the people at home that don't know what a content strategy is, describe that.
Sure, yeah. A content strategy is, it's a plan. It's an overall plan. So it's not just an editorial calendar. It isn't just actually, that's usually the biggest thing when people think content strategy. They think, oh, editorial calendar. I need to know when I'm posting what on my blog and on Facebook and on Google Plus and Twitter and Pinterest and all. And I need to know how to kind of, rotate those things through so I don't have to recreate the wheel every single time. It isn't that. It's the whole thing. It is looking forward ahead 3 months, 6 months, and saying, all right, I'm going to be seeding all of my social profiles and my email lists and my website with content that's going to that might be building little pieces around a bigger idea, and then that bigger idea is actually getting refined over time, and then I release the ebook, or I release the the package or the webinar or a special design service, like in your case. And so it's putting, you really have to think forward, kind of start at the end, and then work your way back. Like, you're going to say, okay, I want X. Well, how do I get X? What type of information do I have to create to get to that point? And then, how can I break that up, and how can I reimagine it? Where's the best place to put the visual part of it, and where's the best format for for a certain idea? And so you have to really, you think about all that, you put it all together, and then you just execute. And if you can track, the best part about having a strategy, just in general, I mean, this works for everything, guys, is that you can track how it's going. And so the hope is you come up with this plan, you think it all through, and you say, okay, I know where I'm getting the best chance for me to close a lead, or for me to get a phone call. This is usually what happens because I know my business and I know what my customers are expecting of me, and I know how they reach out to me. So I start there, and then I work backwards and say, well, how can I get them to that point faster? Or how can I start to talk about different things that are going to lead them over to me to that part? Because once I get them onto that phone call, or once I get them to fill out that form, I know that I'm capable of closing them, and I'm capable of making that deal happen. And so you really have to think of that whole thing. And I'll tell you what, the few that we've done that have just, it's fun because you just sit there and you watch it and you smile. And you're like, wow, this is going according to plan. And a couple times it doesn't. You're like, that didn't really work out the way we thought it would. So you make adjustments. But the nice thing is you're making adjustments on an informed basis. And you're saying, okay, this is what I thought was going to happen. It didn't happen. Let me change focus.
Yeah.
Or let me change the ideas. You're not really changing too much focus, but
find what does, right? I mean,
what's that?
I said if your content isn't resonating with your audience, you need to rethink that.
Yeah, and your content that you post, as part of the presence that you build for yourself online. has to do two things. It has to make sense for your audience, and it has to make sense for you. If all you're doing is giving people things that they love, but there's no way to trace that back at all for you, as far as your business goals, you're wasting your time. And the other thing is the people that you're attracting aren't the kind of people that are going to buy from you. And I mean, this is an argument I make a lot, and the idea of like sharing funny memes and cat gifs and things like that. Well, if you build a huge follower base on social media because of that, they're not following you because of your interior design skills or the professional services that you provide. They're following you because of the cat gifs, and they're following you because of the memes. They just think you're funny and they don't want to keep you around, but they don't really know who you are as a business person. Now, you can still do those kinds of things, but you need to tie them in. You do it for the attention, but then you tie it in with some type of narrative or text or whatever to be able to get people who read that saying, oh, well, all right, so this is how they tie it into their business. And so you're constantly training your audience and the people that are connecting with you that this is what I'm about, and these are the types of things you can expect from me. And it doesn't make it any less genuine or anything like that. It's just, here's my channel, and you're sort of subscribing to it. This is the kind of programming that I have.
That brings up a question that Susan Sarah has in the stream, and she says, how authentic, strong, targeted should a social media voice be? How much personality is appropriate?
Well, I think you definitely have to have a personality, and this leads to, first off, hi Susan. Susan's again another awesome person. You have such amazing people in your community, Lori.
Our team is stellar. Our members are stellar. So
unbelievable people. So brand voice is really what this comes down to. Even like Susan's kind of her own brand, but if you're not your own brand, if you're a logo, and you're behind your social profile, if you will, is a logo, and people have to connect with that somehow. Well, you know what? There's something called brand voice that it takes a little time, and I work with clients on that to try learn a little bit about who they are and what types of things go on in the office. I mean, you could have I've worked with clients that are just very fun-loving, and they're snarky, and they don't mind being snarky and fun-loving on their posts too when they're communicating with people, because then they've set that expectation of this is who I am, good, bad, or indifferent. This is who we are. Now, you may get somebody who really likes your product, or your services, but really can't stand who you are as a person. You actually don't want them as a client, because that's not going to end. That's not going to go well. So it still works. Works out fine, even if you're fun and snarky and things like that. Or if you're just very professional, there's ways to still be personable and professional at the same time. And it doesn't have to include sharing pictures of your kids or anything like that. It's just it could just be a really heartfelt conversation that you're having on, whether it's on a social media post or even a blog post or something like that, or a little video that you do. There's a lot of ways to create content and honestly, Hangouts are a huge piece of that. Hangouts are such an amazing way. Look, I mean, you guys are getting to know me, really. I can't hide behind a screen. I can't hide behind audio for a podcast interview. You see who I am, If I'm sitting here talking and scratching my head the whole time, you realize, or looking off to the side, you guys realize that I'm not paying attention and I'm just kind of babbling. But I'm engaging with you, I hope. And I hope you feel that, here I am connecting on a little bit better level than like as if we were meeting in real life. So, the Hangouts are fantastic. And for those of you who feel a little bit concerned about, that brand voice, or maybe, trying to find that balance, look at Hangouts, because honestly, from this video, you can do a blog post, you can do like a half a dozen different social posts. Laurie's a pro at this. You can do, emails, podcasts, Pinterest boards. You can take this piece of, this story that we're telling right now, you can chop it up into pieces, and you can build a tremendous amount of information around it, and all of it traces back to who you are, because here I am telling you about who I am.
Absolutely. And Jeffrey Johnson in our community also
another one
makes a great point that with our field in specific, we're creatives. So, setting that schedule is sometimes an unsurmountable task. We think, oh my gosh, it's crazy to do this so regimented. When we are creatives, we like to kind of do things, as they go. And I would say Leslie Crothers also, who was our social media moderator, she and I had a conversation because she couldn't be here because of a cold, but she doesn't do anything scheduled at all because she believes in that like human touch. But there are a lot of different philosophies on that. So you have this content strategy idea. Now, what more do you do with that? How do you actually set that type of thing up?
You mean in terms of actually like creating the content itself?
Put into a content strategy. What should you develop a content strategy? What should you put into it?
Oh, okay. Well, content takes many forms. I'll do a quick cheap plug for one of my favorite books, Content Rules.
Yeah.
It's by Ann Handley and CC Chapman, both local to us, Laurie.
Yay.
But it's a great book in the sense that it gives you a whole bunch of ideas on how to reimagine or repurpose content, and to do that whole thing I was talking about before, where you start with a big idea and then you kind of break it into little pieces, or the other way around, they teach you a little bit about how to just put little things out there all the time, and then after a while you start to see what's resonating with people, and then you can create a bigger idea from there. So highly recommend it. It's been out for a long time, I think 4 years now, but all evergreen content, great information. So as far as what goes into a content strategy, you have to think of a few things. You want information that's going to resonate with your audience and that's going to help them get through pain points, because that's usually a lot of times that's what you're selling on. You're selling on a need or a pain point, or whatever it ends up being. You have to think about that. So start there and start thinking about when people come to my door, how do I make them customers? And what are the types of things they're looking for? And then you can start to look at, for example, I'm going to spitball here. If you're an interior designer who specializes maybe in color, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Creating amazing color palettes, and so the people coming to you are most likely people that have white rooms and don't know what to do with it, and they're scared of color, and they're scared of taking that jump, and they definitely don't want to try it on their own because they don't want to put the wrong red on the wall because it doesn't come off that well, right? Unless it's customized wallpaper.
Right.
So what you can do is you can start to create information, and you can do it in a whole bunch of different ways. I mean, you're in a visual world at this point, so I would think things like Pinterest and YouTube and maybe Instagram, well, definitely Instagram, are good outlets for you. But don't pick the outlets yet. Pick the type of information that you feel comfortable producing. And it could be a video. You could be very comfortable, in front of a camera. I've become comfortable in front of the camera, but in the beginning I wasn't. So it took a little time, and I think with any of this, it's going to take some time. You could be the type of person who can whip out their iPhone and take an amazing photo. That's awesome. And if you're the type of person who can do that, then you already know that creating the content's not going to be hard. So all you need to do is just be on the lookout for opportunities to create that content, and then the distribution part of it's simple, because you look at where that content is best served. And if it's on YouTube, or if it's on your blog, or if it's on Instagram or Pinterest or Facebook or whatever, and then after that, then you start off there, and then you say, okay, how can I repurpose this? So, to use a Pinterest example, because when I say repurpose, what you want to do is take this core idea and try and then sort of push it out to other places without having to do a ton of extra work, because again, this isn't what you do for a living. So take an idea of a Pinterest board. Your email list, for example, could feature some of the top pins from this week's Pinterest board. And that's a really simple thing to do, because you don't have to do a lot of work to create original email content. You're focusing on creating original Pinterest content. And then you're looking at some stats and you're pulling some information together and you're firing off an email. A couple things happen. Your email subscribers now know that you have a Pinterest board, and so now you get more Pinterest followers. Now, if your Pinterest board is where people come to your website, and that the Pinterest board is the place where people are most likely to convert, now you've created a way to get people through a funnel that makes a lot of sense, and it makes sense for them too, because You're giving them information, and you're showcasing your business in a way that where they can kind of, all roads lead to the same place, no matter how, no matter where you put it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'm a big believer in that. So.
Yeah, oh, you're great at it. You're absolutely great at it too.
Now, Jeffrey brings up a great point too. How regular, or should you be with your content? Is a consistency important in your content strategy?
Yeah, it is.
Y'all get busy, right?
Yeah, that's an easy one. It is. And here's the thing, right? So I'll give you a tip. If you start with a big idea, then you can break it out into like 20, 30 different pieces. And let's say you come up with an idea and you say, all right, I'm going to create go back to our afraid of color company who helps you get past that, right? Interior designer who loves colorful rooms. All right, so I want people to really get into the color, feel comfortable with color, and then as I'm teaching them to feel comfortable with color, they're going to want to hire me because I've introduced them to this, and I've been the one to make them feel comfortable about it. So you start to think of the different things that you can do, and honestly, pull from sales calls, pull from questions from your website, pull from your email, from emails with clients, because these are things that people have already asked you, and answer them. And you could answer them with a 3-minute video. You could answer them with Instagram. You could answer them. Again, you go back to what I was talking about before. Now, you don't have to do it all at once. That's the thing. So if you can pull together 25 different ideas around this, then theoretically you could release one every other week, and you're good for a year. Or you could release one every week, and you're good for about 6 months. I mean, you just created 6 months worth of content, original content from one idea, and then you say, okay, well, how can I fill in the rest of it? What am I going to do the rest of the week? And I'm not the type of person who believes in the fact you should be, out there all the time, like everywhere, because again, this isn't what you do, but you should be consistent. So if you can publish on a Monday every week for 6 months, go for it. But if you know that you can only get about 3 months worth of content, maybe stretch it out a little bit.
Yeah. That is a really, really great idea. Now, as far as setting up a content strategy where you're going to actually do automated posting, do you set this out week at a time? Do you set it out longer? How do you do that?
It kind of comes down to what information we're putting out there, and also going back to the timeline of where our ideas, how they flow. And again, you're looking at more than just like my content. You're looking at my buyer cycles. You're looking at you're looking at seasonality, especially in your industry. So you don't want to have this year-long plan with all like trendy information, and then the trend is gone in 8 weeks. That you kind of missed it on that one. So we got to come up with a new plan for that. So it all sort of goes together with your business and the business goals, and you also have to say, okay, how many of these do I want to sell? How many of these things, how many clients do I want to bring on? If most of you guys are sole proprietors or small shops, creating a strategy that's going to bring 100 people into the door might be a bad strategy. And as cool as it would be to say, damn, this worked, you're going to do a big disservice to your customers by not being able to help them because you got overloaded. So it all comes down to business goals. And I dodged your question on purpose, but I would say if you can do things a month out conceptually, then you're in great shape. But a month is a lot. I mean, if you're publishing every day, you probably would want to be a month out. But if you're publishing like once every couple of weeks, actually no, the other way around. You probably only need to be a couple of weeks out. But if you're publishing like once every week, then you probably end up going about a month, maybe a month and a half out.
Now, do you also litter that with actual and human, interactions and human posts also, so that you've got your scheduled stuff, plus you've got, you happen to be on Pinterest and you like some stuff, so you pin it, and you are on Google Plus and you want to say something cool and be in the moment, you do that also.
Yeah, so when you enter the debate of social media automation, and it is quite the debate of whether or not you should schedule things. People think that it's, not genuine. To me, I'm making a post. Why wouldn't I want to make it when most of my audience is going to be around? Or why wouldn't I want to? And if I'm in a meeting, because I run a business, and 9:30 in the morning is when most of my clientele is actually going to be online to see that post. Why wouldn't I schedule it? Now, the one thing you have to remember is to go back and engage. So it doesn't matter if a third party or even a social media manager or a blogger created or a webmaster or whatever created a piece of content to put out online in front of an audience that's supposed to be online and supposed to be interested in that, and you timed it all. Well, it's fine if that got automated, or it's fine if somebody else did it. But what's not fine is if you just leave it there. So what and honestly, we've interviewed a couple of you guys from the interior design community, and you've all kind of said the same thing when the topic has come up. And I totally believe this. You can totally schedule out your editorial calendar or the posting part of it, and then you come back to engage, because you don't have. I mean, you can do scheduling at 1 a.m. Doesn't matter. But if you want to be in the moment, like you said, you show up, and showing up in the comments is actually going to do more for you than posting at the optimum time. It's going to show that there is somebody behind the brand, and that you are a real person, and that you do care about the people who care enough to comment and who care enough to interact with you. And so that goes beyond just your own post. Like if somebody shares one of your posts, it's a great idea to go over to their audience now and to say thank you, because now their whole audience got exposed to your information, and you just went over there and said, hey, thanks a lot, I really appreciate it. And now you just earn points with anybody who comes onto anybody in that audience. And that's a big thing, honestly, that's missing with a lot of brand pages. And a lot of them are like, well, it's so hard, it's so much time, and I'm not used to having to go out there. People come to me. Yeah, it don't work like that anymore.
I agree. We only actually have 3 more minutes left, which is crazy because this has only felt like it's 5 minutes. But I do want to know, this one of the questions I was going to ask you. Tell us about your biggest success story.
This is going to sound so self-centered, but you're looking at it. I mean, you know what? My Google Plus story has been just that, and it's been a journey, and I've said that publicly and whatnot. So I do think, I came on here to be able to recommend it, learn what it was about, and recommend it to my web clients. And it turned into a platform that I could use. Had a lot of creative features, and it was a platform that I could use to build a personal brand and to take all the knowledge that I've had in my head for 12, 13, now 14 years, and actually apply it to helping people grow their business online and grow their presence online, and be able to connect with the people that I felt like I should be connecting with, but I'm stuck at home building websites. So being able to kind of get to this point, it has been a success. I've landed a job because of my activity here, with a company called Steady Demand, and we do Google Plus page management and some other G Plus related content marketing for brands. And I've written some books out of this. I'm sitting here talking to you. So yeah, this is a success story, and I'm regularly mentioned with other people who have 10 to 15 times the follower counts that I do, I think, and a lot of it's because I've taken a very strategic approach to how I do this. But then, you guys tell me, it's been a half hour. Do I sound like a robot? Do I sound like somebody that isn't genuine? Again, I don't want to get too cocky here, but it's because of the way that I did it, and it's worked. So there you go.
But I also can expand on that, because just watching you come in and interact with people and be really genuine, and really make those real connections, and not just talking at people, but actually listening and making that conversation, I have seen sometimes more engagement, more really deep engagement on your posts than other posts. And then your books, and you've written the book about Google Plus. You're the guy who wrote the book about Google Plus, and that's real. It's an accomplishment after accomplishment, and it's really kind of remarkable that it kind of came from Google Plus. But we share a little similar story of that, because I wouldn't have this show or anything else without Google Plus also.
It is true, and not to be total evangelists of this thing, but um, the platform itself is one that it's an accelerant. It's very conducive to real life relationship building, and it's just because it's open, and it gives you the opportunity to do that. It gives you the opportunity to have one-on-one FaceTime. It gives you the opportunity to have deeper conversations, and also really tell your story in a very visual way and a contextual way. And because it's open, you can go and connect with anybody. And so because of that, there's one other piece to this though, and that's you have to know your business and you have to know what you're doing. I mean, if you're trying to hack it, that's not a sustainable business model in the first place. And if you try and get active enough on social media and bring in all these people, it's just not sustainable. It's not going to last for you. So if you know what you're doing, you're in great shape. If you run a great business, you know how to treat customers, you build a great product, you are in phenomenal shape because you can come out on a platform like this one or really anyone, and you'll be able to say, hey, I know what I'm doing, and as a result, I'm going to give you guys information that you're going to be like, wow, this guy knows what he's doing, and I want to hire him.
Yeah.
But it all kind of starts with knowing your business, and you know what? That's real life. So the G Plus journey has been interesting because it's a lot more of a real life networking journey than some of the other social networks that are out there, where a lot of us have built ourselves up on platforms. But if you look at real life and how people connect with each other in real life, it's very similar to how the journey's going on Google Plus. It's just been global and a lot bigger, and a little more fluid because it's online. But from a business context, it's the same thing. Like, you can do this too as a business, and it's weird to wrap your mind around a business leaving its own little house and going out and talking to people, because it's hard to wrap your mind around that. But you can and you should, because that's how people find you and connect with you.
Yeah, and the other part to being genuine, because a lot of people I've noticed come on this platform from other platforms where they might be successful, and they're like, so salesy, so in your face salesy, and it's also knowing those platforms and what the culture of the platform is, and before you really engage.
Oh yeah, but it is real. It's still real life. Like, would you walk in? Everybody uses the same example. Would you walk into a meeting or walk into a big, crowded room and shout at the top of the steps like, "Hi everybody, look at me, buy my book"? No, you wouldn't. You would go. You walk up to some people. You listen to what they're about. If you do that, then nobody's going to pay attention to you, and that's how online works. That's the consumer, I think, has become very tuned into this now, whereas a few years ago they weren't. We were able, marketers were able to really just hammer home all of this, this messaging. We're just, it was our time. But now it's flipped. I mean, the consumers are tired of it, and we have to be more strategic and really more transparent and genuine about who we are and how we can differentiate ourselves from all of the people that do the exact same thing we do. Because honestly, that's how real life works. This is all stuff that's been around for hundreds of years. But now we're finally at a point online where we're forced as a company, not forced, but we're kind of moving in that direction as businesses to have to do that. Otherwise, we can't differentiate ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's our time for today. We're actually going to make sure that you have the links to find Stefan and also his Google Plus profiles, because you definitely want to circle him. And make sure you come back next week. We're going to have a great show for you. Visit us on our YouTube channel and on interiordesigncommunity.com, and always here on Google Plus, right? So everyone have a great weekend. Have a little drinksy and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye. Bye, Stefan.
See ya.